Hey, Chris here from AV.technology. I'm here with Chris Ware. Chris is VP of Product Development at Audinate. I got that right first time.
Yeah.
We're here to mark the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the institution. How would you describe 20th anniversary of what when it comes to Audinate?
20 years is just quite amazing. I think we started with a bit of a vision, a bit of a dream to try and build something that the industry could coalesce around and create a platform for the industry.
Yep.
That made interoperability something that was real. And here we are 20 years later, still
Congratulations, Chris. Yeah. It's been a huge part of your life, I know. Before we get to, I guess, how you got involved with Audinate and Dante, I thought I'd just ask you, a big question for starters. It's the most obvious question, but the biggest question. What is Dante? And perhaps what is Dante now as like an engineer coming through, experiencing Dante now versus what Dante was when, maybe you were, scribbling on the back of a beer mat?
Sure. Okay. So Dante is a platform for interoperability for the industry. So back in the old days, as we call them, connectivity in AV networks was really problematic. You had so many cables, you had products that were digital on the inside but analog on the outside. You had, like multi-core snakes is a really example everyone would have seen, and we've used those in explaining this to people over the years. So Dante is a platform that allows a manufacturer to build a product that can connect into that ecosystem of other products, and for an end user provides them a seamless user experience where they have no requirement for knowledge of networking to get it going. You plug it in, it's there, click, sound comes out. And that was revolutionary for the industry because at the time there were some great solutions out there like CobraNet and EtherSound, which had really paved a path, but they were niche. They were only used in certain applications, and we wanted to take that to the next level so that it became the default way to connect your gear together. And so that's the place where the really big difference between then and now is. Back then you had to think of a lot of different ways of doing things. Now it's simple, you can plug it in, it's Dante. And so an engineer coming into the industry now would expect that to be.
Yeah, they take it for granted.
Yeah, take it for granted.
And I guess that's why my question around what it is now is that obviously it's the same product or the same big idea now as it was then, but we take so much of that for granted now. Like for somebody coming through now, their touch points with Dante are going to be different, perhaps. Maybe as a manufacturer, their interactions with you are perhaps a bit different than they were 20 years ago. Like, how do you think maybe people perceive Dante now? Like, it might be different to what you think it is.
Yeah, it may well be. I think in the early days, of course, you had to spend a lot of time convincing people that IP networking can do this as a technology. And my background in networking kind of had me, I just knew that was possible. And so convincing the old audio guys, the ponytailed guys who were running around back in the day, that IP networking was possible, and not just possible, but actually a better option and reliable enough to run a stadium arena versus a small thing, any event really. That was a real challenge. So we had to work through that period of time, and get the manufacturers to see the benefit in putting it in their product, and that was kind of one set of challenges. The other set of challenges was getting the end user to demand that flexibility from the manufacturers. So putting that together created what became the wave of Dante that's coming through. But it really has changed the way that you build a large system, and I don't know how you would do it today without Dante. So I
bet you wouldn't.
I mean, that's me, but I'm sure you can build systems lots of ways. But I think if you're putting together a system of any number of brands and manufacturers, you can choose whatever you want, connect them together on a network, and run a converged network that allows you to just operate really simply.
Yeah, I want to come back to that because that's fascinating. There's lots of things that are fascinating and unique about what you guys do, and one of them is kind of being that Switzerland of products and developers. But let's jump in the Wayback Machine and go to the early 2000s or even earlier. So what was your connection with Audinate and I guess Aiden at that time, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, look, I started my life as a sort of late stage teenager working in recording. Worked in a studio down the road from our old office with Damien Gerard's, and I think that got me very involved in like loving audio and loving recording and live performance. And I realised that I wanted to know more about it, how it worked, how the technologies, how the products worked, and what was going on. So that led me to electrical engineering. Fast forward through degrees. And working it led me into telecommunications. And so that's how I met Aidan, working at Motorola.
Yep.
We had a lab in Sydney, and we didn't work directly together, but we kind of spoke about a lot of stuff, over the years, and it became clear that we wanted to work together on something. And when the opportunity came up for Aidan, it was earlier. I mean, we closed that lab unfortunately, but I stayed with Moto for a little while, cut my teeth kind of building products in the US, and then got the opportunity to join back when Aidan needed some support in terms of getting this done. So that's kind of how that connection happened around 2007. And from there on, it was just I've been on a ride ever since.
Yes. And in those early days, I know a huge part of your job was to take like I guess an industry ready product. It was at the time, but that wasn't enough. It was getting industry acceptance of a product. And I recall a conversation with Aidan earlier, a number of years ago, it felt like a bit like Alexander Graham Bell's trying to sell a telephone. It's sort of like, it's an awesome product, but unless you got something to connect it to, it's hard to get momentum. Like, do you want to just talk to me about those early wilderness years?
Yeah. Oh, I could talk about this forever. Look, the very first implementation ended up in a Dolby product called the Dolby Lake processor that Bruce Jackson, God love him, was building
Down
the
the
Lake
road.
technology just down the road. And so that connection came about. Bruce became a real supporter of ours. Crazy Brave said, I want to get this into my product. It will improve my product. And so the benefit that he had was that he made both ends of that telephone link. And so it was used for a really specific purpose, and we could deploy it as a free firmware update at the time.
Just remind me, like, people will remember the Dolby Lake process. It was a very pivotal, seminal product, and was in every big show pretty much around the world for a period. Still is. And so how did he implement it?
So it was put together with that team. So we worked really closely on taking our implementation and then porting it and making it suitable to run on the hardware that was built for the DLP, and then deploying that through the Dolby process and get it out to the end users. And so part of that was technology, but a part of that was also education and educating users on, okay, what have we just done to your product? What can you now do with your product that you couldn't do previously? And that meant connect them on a network in a way that allows you to move the signals around that previously had to go through AES cables or multi-cores or other connectivity mechanisms, and that was built into the product.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic step forward.
My sense was that you had a product that worked. It was solid. You plugged in and worked, but you were working with IT infrastructure that wasn't designed for touring. Like, in those early deployments, like, what were some of those kind of lumps in the hose that you had to work through?
Yeah, we definitely had to get people across the learning curve of using Ethernet. So Ethernet in audio was there for some control purposes. Definitely, if you'd tried CobraNet, you'd tried it. But switched Ethernet, and in particular gigabit switched Ethernet, made that task a lot easier. I mean, our timing, the timing of the Dante wave, really correlates with gigabit Ethernet becoming a viable thing, because it gave you so much more headroom. I'd always explain to audio guys, it's like just having an extra sort of 16, 24 dB
32 bits sort of thing
of headroom. So that kind of capability of the technology was one part. Another part was having networking products like switches that we could rely on, and we're out there, and people were asking us, which switch should I use? I want to use a switch, and we would just say, look, any of them will work. And the reason for that was because we didn't require anything of the network. One of the design philosophies of Dante is it should just work. And knowing what a network does, we should be able to use that to deliver the solution. So we didn't require anything specific of the network. We didn't require you to buy a specific model of switch. We didn't even really require specific configurations until it got to that real extreme of, pushing up against the capacity of the network. At that point, you just buy more network. It's easier.
But even then, you've got like Bruce Jackson with $1 million show in a huge stadium, and you've got a 15-cent RJ45 connector. Like it was a bit mental.
It was a bit mental, but there are people who built locking connectors, and as great as they are, they work just the same as the ones that don't. We built redundancy features into the product, so you'll see a lot of Dante products have a primary and a secondary connection, and that is a full-time, always running backup connection that it can run on a separate network. It's designed to run on a completely separate network. So that gave people confidence. I think also the experience of doing things like 2010, the Winter Olympics. That was a big system built with the lab group and products, PLMs, and just designing that network in a fault-tolerant way. So helping Claire and Jim Morrow Claire to build a network that, if it failed, would fail gracefully and allow you to continue operating using standard off-the-shelf IT practices, things like spanning tree, and it was really relatively simple for a networking professional, but for the audio industry gave us a lot of confidence that you could do this and you could rely on that IT, networking evolution, to give us a platform on which we could run.
So you're up to 2010, and the early signs are good, but there's still not too many telephones, not too many people you can phone. What was the big sort of dam burst that happened?
Look, I think there were many, contributing factors. I think we started relationships with the major early brands that were on board, people like Shaw, Yamaha, Bosch. Bosch in particular is really our first major brand across a whole range of industries as well. But they were building, and so it was slowly, and then all of a sudden really quickly. And the quick moment came from the relationship with Yamaha. We had worked on an MY16 card. That was a successful introduction because it targeted the recording application for their mixing console.
So that was on their studio digital consoles?
Any of their digital consoles.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then the Dante Virtual Sound Card combined with the MY16 allowed you to record or play back, which was a thing that you needed to have and was being introduced back in those days. And then along came the CL family. And the CL family was the moment where Yamaha said, you know what, we're all in on this. And it was the only way that you could connect your stage box at scale into the console. They'd taken away the capacity for a multi-core and replaced it with Dante. So when that hit the market, that was revolutionary. And around that time at trade shows, when that was launched, I had many, heads of product and leaders from other audio companies say to me, okay, well, they've done it. If Yamaha's done it, then it's fine, we're in. and that was really the moment that the dam burst. And from then on, we've just been on a massive treadmill to get through to now. I think we work with the vast majority of brands that are out there.
I guess that's a good segue to your position as being like a neutral party, as it were, that you play nicely with everybody in the digital world.
It's very important.
I guess describe what that means technically, and interoperability is a nice word, but describe, I guess, sort of how that works from your perspective in those years as people started signing on hard. Like, there must have been, for example, some manufacturers screaming at you for certain things that might have tried to drag you away from your central kind of philosophy of interoperability.
Yeah, definitely. That was always a tricky path to walk. But look, it was important to me personally that we dealt with all of our partners with integrity and honesty, and we were very clear about the fact that they could communicate with us about their roadmap, about their needs, and trust that that information would stay, in-house. I think that level of relationship is important in the early days of trying to build
confessional, as it were.
this. Yeah. And so, and I would point to many products that were built on the back of that kind of trust. And I think the Shure product line relies on features that are in Dante that were built with those applications in mind, but are available to the whole industry. And that's kind of how we solve that problem. I would not do something unique for a customer. I would always say, we'll build this with you as the lead customer, and we'll do it in a generic way and make it available for everybody.
Yeah.
But you're obviously using that feature to your advantage in your product. And so walking those kind of waters was often difficult, but Dante is full of features that are built around that kind of relationship. And it's still today, even in brand new product portfolios that are being launched today, using those features to provide value that is unique for a manufacturer, but it's based on a common platform.
And it's another unique aspect of the Dante offering is that you are just as concerned with the user experience as you are with the vendor manufacturer experience. Like, tell me about that kind of, is there a tension at all, or is it just if one's happy, the other's happy? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, always. I think in the early days, it was very much a case of we had to drive that end user experience because the manufacturers didn't have exposure to what that would mean. And so we had to provide that leadership. And for me, that was very much, you plug it in, it works. I spent most of my time breaking things here and engineers hated me because I was just constantly breaking things. And that's just treating it like an end user would. I plugged it in, I unplugged it, I turned the power off, I turned the power on, I connected it incorrectly, I did all that stuff. And making it robust in those scenarios was the fundamental part. And then the second is interoperability has to be like top shelf. And so we had to invest in the capability to deliver that for every product and know that it's going to work. And so by leading that, from the end user point of view, that is all now understood, I think, by manufacturers, and they do expect that continues, and they now want to take ownership of that experience. And so it's actually pleasing. They're coming to us and saying, "Oh, can I make sure that my product plays nicely, in this world? Have I done anything that's going to break that?" So that it's a constant effort. It doesn't. It's not going to go away. It's going to be a focus forever.
And it's interesting that in those early days, and you were a studio rat, would you call it? No, that's probably unfair. You hung around the studios a lot.
Around a lot of cables around.
And Aiden was also a muso. So you were naturally inclined that the whole connection with Bruce and live sound and musicians and audio was a natural one. But like, at what point did you realize, hey, maybe we've got a big future in installed audio? And
yeah, look, that was somewhat natural. I know the live, the live use case has been our bread and butter and our heritage, because that's how most people get into installed AV. I don't want to be disparaging.
Maybe it's people of a certain age, but it's changing now, but I do take your point,
And so, look, that's where the bulk of the business is. And so it's very natural that we're led in that direction. And networking has a massive set of natural advantages there. Right? It allows you to scale, manageability, remote power, remote monitoring, a whole bunch of features that networks bring to every other application on the planet. So why can't they bring that to AV? And so that's why we end up going down that path. And there are a whole range of products that were leading into this space. Things like the sort of ceiling tile or the microphone array category, where your complex product distilled down to one cable and a few signals that's suitable to be installed in a meeting room. Those kinds of things are enabled by networking.
Yeah.
And
it also, I guess, highlights in that world of AV and AV installation, that your position as being neutral. Like, is that how you kind of wrap your head around the fact that with all of these large manufacturers of AV gear who are doing their best to own the space with end-to-end solutions, that Dante is naturally a layer in just about all of those jobs.
Yeah.
Like, what do you put that down to?
I think it speaks to the fact that end users want choice. They want to be able to choose the product that suits the application, whether that's lowest price, most suitable for installation, highest performance, whatever your parameters are, you can make that choice, and Dante allows you to do that. And so that is one of the core functions that Dante does provide, an integrator. You can back out a product at the last minute, replace it with another one, and use Dante as the connectivity in there that is far more likely to be possible than it is with any other connectivity solution that's not analog. So I think you get a lot of benefit from that as an integrator and as an end user, and we hear that consistently.
Yeah, right. Is it also the fact that from a user perspective, just the usability, I guess, the usability piece has got to be key as well? Like choice, if you had to give you a little hierarchy of what people are saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's got to work.
Yes.
That's the first thing. And the definition of what work means, includes, you, like I said before, you plug it in, it just works. I think in the early days of us doing all the hard work of selling Dante to a swath of manufacturers across mostly Europe and North America, there was a part of our story which was about helping the manufacturer to understand that their customer can save money using Dante. They can do this faster, cheaper, in a better way for their end customer. And so that is you sell more stuff, your customer makes more money because they can do it in a better fashion, and then it's better for everyone overall. That still applies. That same logic still applies. If I'm installing a system and I've got to run more cabling, or I've got to do something bespoke, then that is more expensive by definition. And so doing it with Dante, where you can run it over the standard cabling that's already in the facility, or the network that's already in the facility, or using the network that you're given as opposed to specifying, they're all things that you can do with Dante that are really difficult to do with any other solution.
Okay. Because it just feels like in the early days you had a technological advantage.
Yep.
And 20 years later, surely, you're obviously not been sitting on your hands, you've been developing your asses off, but you don't have that same only sort of game in town difference. But you've still managed to maintain your position, not from necessarily, I guess, the fact that your chips are in all these other products and people can roll their own and build their own systems, as good as that is, but what you're doing, the underlying technology of network audio, you're still doing it in a way that's superior or better experience, compared to just going in, for example, getting a QSYS thing and going all QSYS, QLAN, or AS67 or whatever. You've still got some sort of difference that people like. They like the flavor.
It comes down to the user experience. So if you ask around, and you'll hear people saying, well, if I do this with AS67, I can do it. But it's just easier with Dante. It's faster. There's less I have to do. And so that is the driver of our continued success, I think, is that we focus on what that user experience is. And now we're starting to deliver solutions that lie on top of that base around providing management and fleet management for devices at a level that is far more in tune with helping the system operator to save money. So we have a big customer in North America who uses our management platform to deliver the solution to their customer, their facility, using less stuff. And they can do that because they have access to information from the Dante system through our domain manager product that gives them an advantage. And so those kinds of continued layers and continued evolutions are what's behind that success.
Gotcha. Do you consider yourself a software company now?
Very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Even though we deliver hardware to a good number of the endpoints, there's a significant number of them are now just pure software as well. And so that's kind of one part of it. But we've always been a software company, even though we've delivered hardware.
Sure.
And I'd point to my engineering team. We have a very small number of hardware engineers and a very large number of software engineers. There's a as a balance.
Gotcha. And as much as no one wants to mention COVID ever again, but like was the software, did that get accelerated because of the component shortage, or was it an inevitability? Like, I guess it was inevitability, but was there something there?
Yeah, I view that as exactly as you said. It was accelerated by COVID. So when hardware and chipsets are hard to come by for everybody in every way, your natural reaction is to say, look, I want to get control over that somehow. And software gives you flexibility. So it definitely accelerated the move in that direction. It was happening anyway, because there are other advantages to using software in terms of you can integrate with other functions. You can build a more compact solution for like. But that was definitely accelerated by COVID, I would say. And look, the fact that our solution was portable and we could move it and we could have different types of implementations, that was one of the features of Dante up, and still is that we've got implementation types, whether they're for things like microphones and speakers or mixing consoles or DSPs or amplifiers, different targeted solutions that built on the right type of technology is because it's portable. We can move it around. So that's what we took advantage of there in delivering software.
And I guess, were you one of the first to take your monitoring to the cloud? Was that something that you pioneered, or am I imagining that?
I'm not going to claim we were
You're going to
first.
claim that?
No, I'm not going to claim we were first. But look, it's a natural evolution. I think that the industry is accepting of connectivity to the cloud in different ways, and so that's still in an early stage. But I think that certainly remote production was one of the first moves into the cloud. That's moving along. I don't know if it's been terribly successful, because I don't know that the cost benefits are there, but the industry in general is expecting that networking, the use of networking to do what we can do with every other function on the planet, will continue to be delivered in AV solutions, and so cloud will play a big role.
Yep. Talk to me about video. Dante AV has been around a while, and you might tell me that it's the most successful thing ever, and I just maybe don't see much of it. But like, I guess, what are the challenges of doing both, and is there a sacrifice in pushing both? And given the way the reality of the market with video and network video especially, like, do you see a future for Dante pushing video?
I do, and I think it will continue. We have a product family that is out there in the market now, and that's still in the relatively early stages of adoption. And look, video adoption has happened much quicker than audio adoption. So if you wind back to the early parts of our conversation, that was happening over a lot of years.
Sure.
So we condensed that right down.
Sure.
And I think in this case, we are still in those early stages. Although the video market is very different, and I think it would be false to assume that we can just do what we did for the audio world. And the key difference there is the audio world had a real problem that we had a real solution for. And so we put those two together, and the timing was right. Video, it's a little different. Video, they've been doing video over IP for a long time. And so there needs to be more to the solution, and it needs to fit with other pieces. And so that's how we're approaching our delivery of video and Dante AV to the market. And so that's still evolving. We've got, the first manufacturers are delivering products, cameras, IO boxes, etc. And there'll be more to come on that front. But we definitely see a role for video in our platform in the future. You can't be an AV platform without the V part. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Finishing any interview like this off is always going to involve you looking into the crystal ball. Like, you've had 20 years of Dante, and do you see another 20 years of Dante in the future? Of course you do, but like, what's going to make Dante thrive and continue to maintain its position in the market?
I think the answer to this is in some of the points I sort of mentioned earlier in the interview around the things that we can do, and really only Audinate is best placed to deliver around creating systems that are more valuable for those who are using them. And what do I mean by that? I mean tying together the fact that we have access to information out of every device. We have access to the devices that are there, and we can provide that information through integrators, through manufacturers, and through different interfaces so that you can operate your system in a more efficient, cheaper, faster, better way. And so what does that mean? That means more software in the system, taking on a lot more of the functions that today are kind of glued together and just like random in any different implementation. Is that device working? How would I manage the firmware here? And what we talk to these things as platform features. So it's the value of having a common platform on which you can do the things that differentiate, and Audinate can do the common things that everybody needs. Yeah, I think that's how we continue to grow, and we continue to offer more for frankly a slightly different customer set. It really is now the integrator who gets the real benefit of some of this work. They can do more. They can do it with less people. They can do it cheaper. They can do it faster, and that's where I think we really shine.
And again, that's because you're not a threat.
Right.
You're the Swiss bankers.
That's right. I said it's that ability to do the things that everybody needs. Yeah. Right, and allow people to differentiate.
Give me one example, maybe apart from firmware. Like, give me an example.
So remote monitoring. Right, is the device alive? Is the audio flowing? Have I had any issues on the network? What's wrong when there's something going wrong? Yeah. It's a really simple one.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on 20 years, and congratulations on being so pivotal in such an amazing product, and an Aussie product.
Yeah.
That is a credit to you and all of us as Australians. I'm taking credit as well. Thanks a lot for your time.
No, thank you very much, Chris. It's a pleasure. Cheers. Thanks.